right. Hello, everybody. If you are tuning in here, welcome to another awesome Tech Talk, courtesy of TechHub South Florida, our new awesome name that we are all getting used to over here. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. We have a really great topic tonight on public interest technology and civic innovation. Basically, how does government get using technology right? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. My name is Joe Russo. I am the president and CEO, and my video is not on. We're going to try and make my video work here. I am the president and CEO, joining you from my apartment, just like everybody else in COVID times. We're making it work today, getting ready for a late soccer match over here myself. Intermittent from my work day. So we are very lucky to have Livio here today, who's going to talk to us. I'm going to run through some quick introductions for those who are joining us for the first time. We are sponsored for tonight and for this event by Kerry Stamp. And Kerry Stamp is a not only a awesome financial advising company, but they also are in technology startups as well. So Kerry, I believe, is here. And I'd like to invite him up to the stage to say hi real quick.
Okay, let me take Bernie Sanders' meme off the screen. And
I love it.
Thanks. I am here now. So, Joe, thanks so much. My name is Kerry Stamp. I'm a financial advisor. I work with a lot of technology entrepreneurs and executives at technology companies. I'm not a baby boomer, even though I'm a little bit older than the average tech person. Don't call me a boomer. The firm has been in existence for 18 years. Down here in South Florida, our offices are in Tequesta, and we have offices in Chicago and Stamford, Connecticut. Last week was really exciting for us because Forbes magazine named the firm as a best in state wealth management firm for the state of Florida. So was really psyched, and I've got a great team. Kerry Stamp and Company, if we can help you, any financial planning issues, tax planning or estate planning, we're in Tequesta. Thanks, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you, Kerry, and congrats on that. Big fans of you guys, also part of FAU Tech Runway's last class as well. So thank you very much, Kerry. And with that, I do want to highlight our mission for our organization, and that we are trying to work on every single day is building South Florida into a tech hub, hence our name. So thank you guys, all of you, for being part of that here tonight. And with all of our events, we do have a community creed, which we have not updated this slide yet, quite apparently. And it simply says that we are wholeheartedly committed to building a welcoming, collaborative, and inclusive community for all. We want everybody to attend our events and feel welcome to attend our events. So that's something we say at every event, and we want to make sure everyone believes and takes part in that. For those who are a little unfamiliar, we are TechHub South Florida. I'm just going to glaze through these slides. These are some of our members. We are a nonprofit organization. We have corporate members and individual members. So if your company want to get involved, you check out our website to learn a little bit more about our different memberships. Great ways to get involved, get engaged, and learn more about our tech community. And for these events, Mondays, we have our Tech Talks. Tomorrow morning, community coffee. We have 100 people signed up. We still have room, so join in on Zoom tomorrow morning. We're going to be having a community coffee at 8 a.m. about AI, machine learning technology, including one of the directors from Magic Leap, actually. We do podcasts. We do workshop events on Fridays called Food for Thought, so do check those out. And if you're looking for a job, check out our resume distributor. It is on techhubsouthflorida.org, and you can check out all of the great companies that are hiring while also submitting your resume to those companies. So without further ado, I'm going to get back to our beginning slide, and I'm going to welcome Livio, who is the co-founder of Code for South Florida, to the stage.
Hello, wait. Hey, Joe, I think you accidentally disconnected yourself, but...
I I did, but you're all set to go. My settings just got messed up. But Livio, it's your show, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm gonna screen share now. So this is today I'm going to talk about the Civic Innovation Framework. First of all, thank you TechHub South Florida for having me. And thank you all for coming, for those who were around here. And if anyone's watching this after the fact of the event, then well, welcome to the playback. And what I want to show you, what we're going to show you today, is basically the culmination of Code for South Florida's experience being South Florida's basically South Florida's first public interest technology organization. This is mostly basically the conclusions of our story so far, and we hope that this gives you some insight into how you can engage with governments in a meaningful way, especially as it relates to their technology platforms and really building better digital services. So let's start with a slide of contents. First, going to go over some useful terms, just to kind of give you some language, some themes that we're going to be touching on in this presentation. Then there is Civic Hacking 101, which is basically, it's a kind of a crash course as to what our work entails and how we engage with our work. We're going to go with the problem statement of the Civic Innovation Framework, basically why we do what we do and why we created this document, this living community proposal. We're going to go into the framework itself and the three pillars of civic innovation. That should be 1 point, but and then we're going to talk about how we measure the success of the framework for South Florida and beyond. So let's go over the useful terms. So first, we have public interest technology, or civic technology. It's basically the outcome of what we do. We have civic hacking and civic hackers. We're going to go a little bit more into that as well. But it's basically people who build public interest technology independently. I'm going to use the concept of social impact and social services kind of interchangeably, but it really means something that benefits public health or public well-being. User-centered design, it's not something that I really talk about directly, but it is something that we do, and it's something that if you're a technologist, you will already be kind of familiar with the process of user-centered design and how we use it as we talk about our process. Same thing with agile development. Then there's also the concept of open data and open governments, which is basically publicly accessible information and infrastructures. We also touch on a little bit about open source technology. We talk about civic engagement, smart cities, and digital transformation as well, which are all things that this framework is all about. So let's get into the basics, right? Civic Hacking 101. Civic hacking is a form of civic engagement. It's in the same way that you have, that people can go out and vote, and people can go volunteer for their favorite nonprofit. People can make donations to certain social services. People can sponsor other people through Big Brother, Big Sister, et cetera, et cetera. Civic hacking is basically our form of civic engagement, where people, individuals, communities, they create public interest technology, in public interest technology, what it does is that it facilitates public or political processes. It enables the delivery of social services. It also enables communication between citizens and governments, and it does a bunch of other things. Some examples of public interest technology you're probably very, very familiar with would be, Healthcaregov is public interest technology. If you've ever paid for like a fine or like a court fine through their online services, that is a piece of civic technology. If you ever had to basically look up your criminal records online, that is also civic technology. Those are some few examples, but there are many, many all around you that you are probably already using, but haven't really thought about as public interest technology. Then there's the concept of a civic hacker, right? What is a civic hacker? It's basically anyone willing to collaborate with others to create, build, and invent to address challenges relevant to our neighborhoods, our cities, and our states, or our country. It's a definition from the Open NASA blog, which you could find at the Wayback Machine. So let's talk about the civic hacking process. If you are into civic engagement, or if you are into product development, or you do some sort of you've done some sort of lean startup method, lean startup engagement in the past, this is going to sound very, very familiar. It's just at the intersect of social impact and all of those popular technology trends by which we develop products. But it really starts on uniting people in a public interest issue. If there's something going on in your community, whether there's something you're very passionate about, it starts with bringing other people to the table to talk about it and reach the second step, which is to establish a common understanding of the issue. In order to really address an issue, you really have to, especially in a collective sense, you really have to make sure that everyone involved in that process understands what the issue is. Whether it is there's too much traffic in Miami. Why is there too much traffic in Miami? Well, there's the issue with highways, and there's the issue of public transportation. Well, why don't we have more public transportation? Oh, well, there's not enough data supporting public transportation. How do we create more data over public transportation? And through that conversation, after you establish an understanding of the issue, you evaluate available resources, and you see, okay, what's available to me, and what do I need to do to reach a certain vision? So maybe using the example of transit once again, hey, maybe you want to expand the Metro Rail into, if you're in Miami, the Metro Rail issue is always a hot topic. It's like, maybe we want to expand more Metro Rail because our Metro Rail is really short. Okay, what do we need to do? Well, first we need to get some data on why Metro Rail is going to be very, very beneficial. We need to get some information about, about how people feel about the actual public transit system. Would they actually ride the Metro Rail into Kendall if it's expanded, for example? It's just a matter of kind of gauging what resources are available to you. And then from there, you identify opportunities and touch points, or rather pain points that users have, so that you know where their biggest problems lie. And around those problems and around the resources, on top of that understanding, you develop a specific solution for impact. Now, that's not very strange for people who are already into entrepreneurship or who are already into service design or all those sorts of things that are very popular in the technology space. But when you add the public interest factor into it, it somewhat shifts the formula to focus more on the social impact outcome rather than actually developing the product. But the outcome's still the same. You're developing a sort of product or service based on what you observe. So that's a civic hacking process. It's literally something anyone can do. It's literally something anyone can do, and it's something that's been happening, in our cities for a very, very long time. Especially since people have figured that, hey, if there's a problem in my community, I can go and solve it myself. So what's the story so far here in South Florida? Well, in Code for South Florida, it's one of the first nonprofits spawned from an independent network of civic hacking brigades. So there's a network of other civic hackers around the country, and they're usually small volunteer groups, but we've managed to actually create one united nonprofit and actually secure funding to engage in these public interest technology projects. And throughout our 1 year as an organization, 2020 being the only year we've been operating as Code for South Florida. Before that, we were Code for Miami and Code for Fort Lauderdale. We just banded together. But in that year of working as Code for South Florida, we discovered some very, very important things in our collective work. And the first one being that there is a lot of really good talent here in South Florida, especially talent that is very interested in civic engagement. Miami especially has been, as the Miami startup space, from my view, has been heavily intertwined with social innovation. And as a result, we have a lot of local technology talent that is interested in creating impact and is interested in creating projects for the greater good. But when it comes to government, which is probably the institution that needs most of these services and most of this knowledge, although they're very, very interested in working more with technology and discovering how they can use technology to improve their services, they still don't have the knowledge, the talent, or the culture, or the resources to really implement not just actual technology solutions, but really to maintain them and maintain them in a way that is meaningful to its constituents. The other challenge is which is kind of what I just alluded to. The other challenge at large is that there's a really, really big knowledge gap among technologists, among civic engagers, among community leaders, as to what is the most meaningful way to engage with government to create, develop, or maintain public interest technology. There's just not a complete consensus around that, and after really realizing that, that's when we jumped into see what kind of unifying theory for innovation around this problem can we create. So through our work, right, we're talking a little bit more about what we've achieved using kind of our intuition as civic hackers, right? We started localair.org, which is the City of Miami Smart City Pilot for equality. Specifically designed for the City of Miami. It would basically allow citizens to provide feedback on existing budget proposals. And this was entirely built by college students who had no prior experience to design and developing software. We just kind of helped them and gave them some resources, and they just went to work in this matter of 6 weeks over a couple of iterations. We also built badgewatch.org, which is a searchable database of police complaints that's provided by the Civilian Investigative Panel of the City of Miami. And we did that without prior approval from local government. We just had access to a community partner who said, hey, I have this information. How can we make it public in a way that is searchable and accessible? So we jumped on the case and basically launched badgewatch.org in the span of a week. Another one of our crowning achievements as civic hackers has been getyourrefund.org, which was a platform created by our national strategic partner, Code for America, that they were working with really large nonprofits that help people file for their taxes, especially for low-income taxpayers. And after onboarding 5 different nonprofits in Florida, if I recall correctly, we returned over 1.5 million produced over 1.5 million in returns for low-income taxpayers in Florida. And this was just a team of a staff of 5 pushing, helping local nonprofits adopt a tool that was also part of their digital transformation efforts. So I'm gonna take a quick pause there and check on the actual questions, because I just covered a lot of information. I forgot to say that if you have any questions at any point, I can't see your chat while I'm presenting, but if you have any questions, I'm going to take some quick stops. Just drop in the chat, and in between sections, I'll just go and check if you have any questions. And if I can address it then, great. If not, we can just leave it for the Q&A if there's enough time.
Hey, and I can take a look here and talk to you really quick about the questions. If you want to keep going after you stop this time around.
Wait, what do you want?
So I see you're already looking at the questions, and I'll just monitor chat as you keep going in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. If you think there are any really, really good questions, just feel free to pause me in between slides. That's the best time.
Okay.
But anyway, back to the actual presentation. Present. All right. So we just talked about civic hacking. What is civic hacking? Some examples of civic hacking and the results that we've had as a small troop of civic hackers trying to do the best for the greater good. So let's talk about the problem statement, right? Why do we do the work that we do? Why have we chosen our focus to be social impact? So what's the greater story at play here? So we know, as TechHub South Florida and people already kind of involved, we know, we all have this unspoken agreement that service industries have undergone major transformations on the backs of technologists, people who are building scalable services and building special services for 21st century, because now everything is digital and it just has to be that way. Some great examples of how really simple tools have completely changed the way that we address certain certain industries. You have Uber Eats, you have Facebook, you have Turo that lets you literally just rent cars for the day, kind of like ride sharing, but for car rentals. You have online food delivery marketplaces that just make it very easy to order whatever you want straight from your phone, as if you're just wishing for it. You have grocery delivery services like Instacart. You also have big brands, pizza shops like Domino's and hold on, let me fix my lamp for a second. This is bothering me. You have big brand pizza shops like Domino's that have basically you can order online and you can literally just see what step of the preparation process your pizza is. And you also have crazy wonders like Amazon, that even though they're a distribution company with a bunch of warehouses, it's all entirely technology powered. And they started as just an online bookstore using just using the most simple, user interface that you could have. But the great thing about these systems is that they focus on creating an experience that is both productive and pleasant for its users to, bottom line, maximize the company's revenue while providing the specific service. I messed up this slide, but this is the next slide. But how about for the public sector, right? Do we have these great, fantastic marvels happening in the public sector? Sort of, but if you start looking more at some of the more recent use cases in Florida, particularly the Florida unemployment story that cost the government $77 million, you start to see a very different picture at the level of public services. Basically, the Florida government, for those that haven't, that did not really follow the news at the beginning of the 2020 pandemic, or the pandemic in 2020, the Florida government basically procured a platform from Deloitte that would basically enable people to file for unemployment and get their unemployment through the website, their unemployment benefits through the website. This was built several years before, and apparently Deloitte hadn't been involved in the project since like 2015 or 2016, I think, from the same article. But when the COVID-19 pandemic hit and it reaches Florida, a lot of people try to file for unemployment, and what happened was that the application just literally crashed. The application crashed, and a lot of people were locked out of filing for unemployment online. So they had to go into the lines themselves. And actually, if you saw the reports, it was all just a bunch of people crammed together, trying to make a line just to get some unemployment checks that are supposed to be government guaranteed because these people are taxpayers. But instead, they were basically experiencing a massive service failure and finding some way to compensate for that. So for us, this kind of and this is not just something that you'll see specifically in Florida. It's also happened with Healthcaregov. It was a disastrous launch, even though the application promised to kind of change how we view healthcare. You can also see several other examples around government services. And this, to us, means that there's a very, very big disparity. There's a consensus, there's a very, very big disparity, that because the private sector has accelerator capacity to deliver services so crazily, but government institutions, despite being the most capable of implementing change for the public, they still lack the culture, the knowledge, and the manpower to apply these modern technology methodologies to their own services. And at the local level, what we've found from working with governments and working with nonprofits and working with other technologists is that there's a lot of interest to address these threats to public interest, but the slow pace of government and how difficult it is to really instill civic engagement in professional technologists working in the private sector still remains a challenge. So this prompts us with several questions, right? Specific that are all directly answered by the Civic Innovation Framework. How do we activate local technologists to contribute to social impact projects? 2, how do we build cities that enable feedback between its local governments and civically minded technologists, or the civic hackers? And how do we foster cultures that further enable public interest technology and civic hackers to continue building on the infrastructures that already exist? And ultimately, this all ties into a single question: how do we build cities in South Florida and beyond fit for the digital challenges of the 21st century, as we've already laid out in the scope of this presentation? That's where the answer comes. The Civic Innovation Framework comes in. Let me check the time for 1 second. So about 25 minutes in.
We do have one question when you're ready, when you're at the stopping point.
Let's send me that question now. Let me see.
All right. from William. I'm actually, if I can. William is a student at Dreyfus School of the Arts in West Palm Beach, and he asked, what opportunities are there for students in the region to be involved in Civic Hacking?
Nice. I'll actually address towards the end, but I'm very, very happy to have that question. And I'll be happy to also kind of follow up on that later on, but let's keep it rolling. I'll address your question towards the end. But so Civic Innovation Framework. So this is what we've come up with based on our experience and these questions that we've asked ourselves over time. What is a Civic Innovation Framework, right? There are three main pillars that make up this framework that would enable us to see kind of a critical mass towards a better South Florida. The three pillars are civic engagement, smart cities, and digital transformation. What does this mean more specifically? Let's start with civic engagement, right? Civic engagement in the context of civic innovation means that we need to activate a subset of our local talent pool that is best suited to creating and scaling social impact technology projects. This could be a local government project. Maybe it's not government related at all, but it's more with nonprofits and whatnot. But bottom line is that civic innovation happens with people who are already capable of creating innovation within their own industries. Some civic hackers can serve in very specific roles, sometimes in more than one, sometimes all three. But it's designers who do the research and develop service specifications for users based on feedback. It's the engineers that can actually build and physically, with their own hands, build and scale existing platforms using what they know. And then there's ambassadors who can convey the story and the importance of upgrading and maintaining our social services. People like storytellers like me. I actually would say that I fall primarily in the ambassador class of civic hackers, because my role within this movement thus far has been finding a way to convey the importance of this mission, what this mission means. The second pillar is smart cities. And when you say smart cities, it brings up a bunch of ideas as to what a smart city is. So we've really tried to kind of condense, done our best to condense what a smart city means in terms of what feedback we've gotten. But really, it means to create it really means a city that with the capacity to collect and share data about its ecosystems and its services. What that can look like, it can be an Internet of Things prototypes and programs for public data, such as our local air.org initiative that is currently kind of piloting not just tracking air quality, but also kind of the meta of managing these actual Internet of Things devices. There's also making open data for research, making data available and open for researchers, for civic engagers, and transparency of constituents so that they can make educated opinions based on real data that the city is gathering. And it's continuous collaboration among civic hackers, private sectors, and local governments as they share information about what's happening within their cities. Smart cities, in this case, doesn't just mean installing a bunch of IoT devices and publishing the data so that people can use it. It also means creating actual feedback of information among the different active actors of your ecosystem. And I don't know what this slide is here, but this slide, the last pillar would be digital transformation. And the digital transformation bit, this is basically kind of the most intrinsic concept in the framework, because it doesn't necessarily refer to something that is physical and tangible. It's more about the cultures that maintain maintain the digital infrastructure of a city or of a community. It focuses on continuous feedback of local technology resources in a way that encourages people to continue building and maintaining public interest technology. This can look like designing cultures and communities as specifically geared towards civic hacking, or having civic hacking or public interest initiatives within technologist groups. It can also include the removal of technology silos across the different sectors of society, because when you share information, we're actually much more likely to empower each other in the same spirit of open source technologies. That's how they work, which is openly sharing information and data amongst each other. And ultimately having a more diverse technology workforce where all social, ethnic, and racial identities are represented not just in the teams, but also in the design and the design considerations put into public interest technology. So we've talked about the 3 pillars. We've talked about, civic hacking, which is kind of the engine that maintains the Civic Innovation Framework going. The 3 pillars being kind of the main points to touch on. But how do we actually measure how if I were to say, okay, I just learned what the Civic Innovation Framework is, I'm going to go do it right now. But of course, if you don't have a benchmark of success or some way to quantify or measure that success, it's going to be a difficult cause. That's something that we also learned in our experience. So measuring success, it really depends on the scope, scale, and objective of individual projects and communities, but it doesn't have to be something difficult. Civic innovation, the main outcome of civic innovation is improved access to information, social services, and civic engagement for the general public. So if you're improving the way that information is being managed in your community, if social services are better off after you've done your research or you've created a small new application, and people are actually kind of touching on, are more encouraged to engage with government and engage with issues of public concern, then you can say you've had successful civic innovation. This can look like, but it's not really limited to, maybe the number of citizens that you're serving or citizens that register to the service. It could be the amount of the services rendered. In our case, for example, the work we did with Get Your Refund gave many taxpayers their much needed returns during the pandemic. It could also be the stories and conversations that you start as a result of civic hacking and civic technology, which I think is my favorite part, because when you create a platform like batchwatch.org, you're encouraging where police complaint data is openly searchable and accessible, then you are empowering citizens to have more difficult conversations about how the police is actually enforcing, is actually protecting their own citizens from bad cops or bad behavior. So those are just a few things that can tell you that your civic innovation efforts are succeeding, but it's not really limited to that. And the space to determine what success looks like in this industry, there's still a lot of ground to cover, and we don't have all the answers. But so far, this is what we've been doing, and so far this has worked for us. Oh, I should have just used this slide, but yeah, this is how we measure success in our individual projects. Not really going to get too much into it again, but once again, Get Your Refund brought millions of dollars to taxpayers. Batchwatch encouraged conversations about police brutality and law enforcement. People Budget was built entirely by college students who didn't know how to code. I think that's a great story. And Local Area, of course, making new data available and just really proving the concept of how can you implement a fleet of IoT devices within the city. And you can feel free to check out those links and find more information. So what now? What now? Well, now that you know what the Civic Innovation Framework is, how can you get engaged with civic innovation, right? I don't have a slide after this, so I'm just gonna go. But how can you get engaged with civic innovation? Of course, there's always, you can start your own project. You can do your own research. You can get you can start doing your own research and start making your own decisions of research as to what is needed within your communities. You get in touch with other people doing similar work, and you say, hey, we have an issue of public concern that's happening here, and I want to talk about it, and I want to address it. Maybe you will find a lot of challenges, and you're going to be really, really discouraged. But the simple fact that you've gone out and done and had those difficult conversations is the start of civic hacking. And that's really what I think is very beautiful about civic hacking, is that anyone can really do it and they can connect with more people who are already doing fantastic work simply by taking those steps to ask the right questions. As far as Code for Self-Lord is concerned, well, you can always sign up for a newsletter. We haven't done a newsletter in a minute, but we're going to start because we've been quiet with a lot of new things. But you can get informed and start getting plugged into our developer communities and see what we're doing. And if you just want to have a conversation about civic technology and opportunities in your own community, I'm also happy to having that conversation, because what I have talked about today are things that anyone can really just take, because at the end of the day, we just want some people to take this and make it even better. So yeah. What are some of the new things? Well, more recently, thank you, Ryan, for the question. Site reliability engineer, basically the OG engineer of Code for South Florida when it first started. What are some of the new things? Well, now we've grown to just being a small troop of civic hackers, and now we're moving more into a community of communities. We're trying to basically, create a unified front for technologists in South Florida, especially those who are civically minded. A lot of the conversations in Miami Tech going on right now, and South Florida Tech in general, have been fantastic for the future of South Florida Tech. But we also see that technologists need to take a place at that table, and not just technologists, not just product designers or lead developers at big companies, but also developers who might have small time jobs, but are also very, very interested in making an impact for their communities through what they know and their professional skills. Because at the end of the day, that's what they can spend most of their time on. And ultimately, we really want to promote the Civic Innovation Framework as something that anyone can do. So, it's yours for the taking. It's yours for the taking. And it's something that came here out of South Florida. South Florida is a leader in many, many things. But, I feel like it often goes unnoticed because we're just we're a very nice vacation destination. But that's it, Thank you all for having me. Hello, Joe. Welcome back to the stage.
Awesome.
And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to take. I think we're very much over time, but I'm happy to take them via email.
We're a little bit over time, but thank you so much for joining. Livio just dropped his email in the chat there, so feel free to grab him on there. You're on LinkedIn too. You're on Slack. You're basically, Google the guy, you'll find him. He's got one of those names, and Code for South Florida too. You're going to be able to find them online, sign up for what they got going on. And thank you guys so much. The whole team over there. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate all you do for our community. And there's your Twitter handle there.
Yeah, I'm a big Twitter person. So if you want to reach me and start a conversation with me, Twitter's probably the easiest way.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, and have a happy Monday to everybody joining in. Good luck the rest of your week, and hope to see you again at one of the TechHub South Florida Tech Talks.
For sure. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody.